Welcome back to the fall season of This Week in Indies. You know, as artists, how much does routine play a part in our everyday creating? What are some ways to develop that? What are some of the benefits? We'll discuss this and more with our roundtable panel of indie creatives. Seal Cannon is back with us for another season of the Indie Connection, giving us indie books you might like if you are fans of My Oxford Year by Julie Wayland. Finally, we have our first victims, participants, as our panel will sweat it out under the clock of the 5-minute drill. So sit back, relax, and grab yourself a cup of coffee, get ready to chat about these things and more. And welcome back to This Week in Indies. And here's your host, Joe Compton. Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome back to This Week in Indies. Yes, we're back, and we're going to go full bore from here on out. So get ready for some exciting topics, some great discussions, and all that wonderful stuff. It is going to be a wonderful season, and I'm real excited to start it off the way we're going to start it off today. But first and foremost, we do have a sponsor this week, and it is our friend, Miss Madeline Dale. So let's hear from Miss Madeline Dale real quick, and then I'll bring on the panel, and we'll get to discussing our topic. All right, look at this wonderful dais here. This is awesome. I'm so glad to have you all here. Thank you for joining me. It's a real pleasure to meet some of you and to bring some of you familiar faces back. I really appreciate it. Let's go around the horn and introduce ourselves. Mr. Hillman, you want to start us off?
Sure. SM Hillman professionally, Sean everywhere else. You can find my stuff at thewickedvoice.com. And I'm a writer of speculative fiction and indie RPG designer. So
nice. All right. It's kind of funny because we have the two hosts of two shows here, right back to back. And speaking of which, Mr. David Green.
Hi, I'm David Green. I write.
That was a hint, by the way, to mention that you were a host of the Green Room.
I was going to. I was going to finish on it. I wasn't until you reminded me, though. So yeah, I'm David Green. I live in Galway in Ireland. I write epic fantasy and urban fantasy, and I am the host of the Green Room on GoIndieNow, which is coming back after its little summer hiatus.
Yeah, we've got a really special beginning for you next week. So we won't talk about it because it's going to be a nice little surprise for everybody. But all right, Kenneth, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kenneth W. Kane. I am a horror and dark fiction writer, a freelance editor, and I run the Toward Waters imprint for Crystal Lake Publishing.
Nice. Awesome. All right, Tiffany?
Hi, I'm Tiffany Vega, and I am an author that writes pretty much any genre. My current book that's releasing in October is a dark romance.
Nice. Awesome. All right. And Tim?
Hi, I'm Tim Meyer. I'm a writer of mostly horror and dark fantasy. I also co-edited a new anthology with Kenneth Kane, fellow panelist, called Never Wake for Crystal Lake Publishing.
Nice. Awesome. I love the title of the publishing company, by the way. That's fantastic. I love the title of the anthology too. That's pretty even more fantastic. Uh, all right, guys. So I wanted to kind of start things off because this is my routine. I do this every Sunday at noon. Well, I don't do this every Sunday, and we do this every Sunday at noon. It's myself or Madeline, but and I don't know if there's a value. Oh, if Stuart wants to mention, Never Wake release on September 8th, everybody. All right. By the way, hello, Anita. Nice to see you. But developing a routine and living by a routine, or I'm kind of curious where you all stand in terms of routine. Is it something that you all value? Is it something that you're like, who cares? Or is it somewhere in between? What do you think about routine for an artist?
I personally think that having a routine for me is a must, because if I don't have a routine, then I am doing something I'm supposed to and then something I'm not supposed to, all in the same at the same time, getting nothing complete. So I map out my days like by the hour, so I know exactly what I need to get done for the day.
Yes.
For me, I have a routine that I follow every day. I get up in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and then I get right to work, and I work until pretty much all day. So I work every day, all day, 24/7, pretty much. I think that's important.
Okay, awesome.
I tend to try to find a middle ground with that. Yeah, I mean, I think routine is very good, and it is good for me as well. But I also need flexibility because sometimes a cat jumps up in your lap and wants aggressively wants cuddles, so you have to veer off your plan. So I try to stay flexible, but as a rule, I think routine can be a valuable tool for a creative.
David, Tim?
Yeah, routines are pretty important for me because I get lazy a lot, and it keeps me like focused on what I'm doing, what I'm working on. So yeah, I have a routine. I usually write in the morning after I work out and have a cup of coffee. I feel like morning writing / editing works best for me. Um, it also depends on what project I'm working on and what family life dictates, because sometimes that can get in the way of stuff, and I do improvise a bit with my time. So I try to stick to a routine, but I also allow myself some flexibility.
Routine's really important for me, mainly because, creatively it's good, but I'm autistic, so I like routines quite a lot. So it's kind of like a twofold thing, because I feel like I'm more productive when I have a set routine and I stick to it. And obviously, I'd like to stick to it, but other things kind of get in the way, especially over the summer holidays and all that kind of stuff. But also then there's as the way I am, I can kind of get quite anxious and stuff like that when a routine is disturbed anyway. So I find them very, very helpful. And when they're disturbed, it can become quite traumatic, really. And then it can take a little bit of a while to kind of get back into the new routine or anything like that.
So Tiffany's breaking the third wall. So is Sean. And then Madeline says hello, everybody. She's jumping in and out, and she's repping GoIndieNow at her con today. We appreciate that. I'm interested in how routines affect you a little bit. Do you feel like they become pretty automatic for you, or do you feel like you have to really work at creating the routine element of it, even if you've been doing it for a while? Is there is there something that just clicks in your brain, or is it something that you have to remind yourself of?
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I have to work at it. I change my routine all the time. And I follow somebody on YouTube who like does her routines off of other authors, like famous authors. And so I every so often try one of those routines to see if it works for me. But I'm constantly changing because your life constantly changes. So like for me right now, usually during the day, I'm taking care of a sick family member. So I have to change my routine to writing at night. And then when this passes, I will go back to trying to do like a morning routine. But mine changes so often that I have to work at it. I have to remind myself, like, okay, you have to get up and do this today. This is your routine. This might be what it's like for a couple of days, and then it changes again. And then I have to remind myself all over again.
Yeah, I think that when I get going, it works out really well for me. But then I can very easily get derailed, as it were. And then the problem is for me, like when in school, I could get B's on my papers and my exams and such by not trying too hard. But if I had just tried a little bit more, if I had better routines as a student, I was a terrible student. If I'd been a better student, I could have had A's much more often. That would have improved my grade point average and things like that. And that's just one example. Same thing when I'm doing game prep. I can prep for the whatever role-playing game, 30 minutes beforehand, but it's a much better, less anxious session for me if I prep couple hours or a couple of days beforehand. So
I take on being a freelance editor, I take on a lot of different projects. So I utilize a lot of calendars and spreadsheets to kind of manage my time. And, like others have been saying, I have family members that sometimes need things, or I want to spend time with my wife or my kids or my pets. So all those things I have to kind of work in and find the time to do it. So I use those calendars with reminders all the time.
Why I'm divorced.
My days are pretty structured anyway. I have an autistic son, and so like our routines are very built into our family life. So it doesn't really I don't have to really work at it that hard because he keeps me kind of structured throughout the day. So
Yeah, same. Like Tim, not only am I autistic, but my son is as well. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of structure built in, which is really helpful to kind of keep into it. But like say, like it can, like summer holidays and whatever, kind of changes that a little bit. So my productivity will kind of drop with that. But I kind of expected it this year, so I worked extra hard to finish everything that I needed to finish before the summer holidays, because obviously like the last couple of years I didn't, and I was kind of getting kind of stressed out because of the kind of schedules kind of getting changed a little bit. So I altered and tailored it a little bit to what was going on, which was actually a lot better, and it was nice to actually take a break. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned recently, like especially in the last few months, is that it's actually okay to take a break every so often and like let the kind of batteries recharge. And because before that, since I started kind of like this writing kind of career, like I was very kind of like, I have to write every single day and I have to do this every single day and this and this and this. And, I'd kind of, again, with the kind of like anxiety of going out of a schedule, when I didn't write for a couple of days, I'd start kind of getting like, I've been slacking off and whatever. But it's actually been nice to kind of take a break. So I think that's one of the things to, it's hard to get out of a schedule and a routine for me, but I think it's actually helpful to do it every so often, just to kind of not get burnt out with the whole kind of process of especially when you have deadlines and stuff like that, and you're kind of really pushing yourself to get things done. it's nice to kind of reward yourself with a little break afterwards. So maybe to schedule a break into your routine is a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's really important, right? Because you end up resenting the work at some point too. You feel like it becomes more like work, right? And not appreciating what you're doing in a lot of respects.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit different in the States, but in Europe, we get quite a lot of holiday time from jobs. so it's like, if you're writing full time, yeah, it's one of those things again. Like, it's just look at it as in like, yeah, you deserve your holiday time or vacation time, like you would do for any other kind of job. So it's important to do it because you're pushing yourself. Like, writing should be fun as well, and it should be something that, for most of us, I think it's a hobby that well, not a hobby, but it's a thing that we enjoy a lot as a reader, and we enjoy the process of doing it. And it's a pleasure and a blessing to be able to do it full time if we can. But that doesn't mean that we should be doing it every single day and not take a break and be kind to ourselves.
Yeah, I am curious. When you do take a break, you fully just stop every routine you're doing? Do you kind of take a break from all of it, or can you partially take a break? How do you kind of manage that aspect?
No, I just replaced the routine with a different routine. It's my relaxing routine.
Well, that's how your brain works, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
For everybody else, is that the case? Do you all take breaks? Do you feel like that's important? And when you do, is it like, I'm going away from all of this?
I think it's different if you're treating it as a hobby compared to a business. Because I could take a break away from like a project writing, but I still have all my admin stuff, all my social media, make sure my ads are running. There's so much other business stuff that you can't really like just step away from for days without it backing up. So it just I guess depends on. I still keep my routine of the business, just taking my creative time and recharging from burnout, away from the creative stuff.
Great minds think alike. We're a little bit ahead of Madeline when she's watching.
For me, I actually took a day off yesterday, but I still answer emails and I still answer text messages and stuff like that. I mean, for me, like being a freelance editor, I mean, the writing part is like an everyday thing for me.
Yeah.
Freelance work, eventually it dries up in little pockets. So that kind of determines when I'm going to have a break, So I take it on when I get it. You know how it is. You got to take as much as you can when you can get it. And it eventually runs out and you have to wait,
I feel like I need to take more breaks. Like if I'm not writing, like I feel so guilty that I'm not writing. Like I have so many stories that I want to tell and so many projects that I want to get involved in. And when I'm not writing and I'm slacking off or, just taking some me time, like I feel very guilty. So I do need to kind of do that for myself and take more breaks. And like David said, just like recharge the batteries a little bit, the creative batteries, because sometimes you do feel like you just get burnt out by writing so much and too much.
I'm excited to have you here, Tim, by the way, fellow filmmaker. So I'm really happy to have you.
Thanks.
Yeah. I am curious with your filmmaking aspect. Is it different for you routine wise?
So like I don't actually make films. I just write like screenplays like on the side right now. But I do have to like set some time aside to do that stuff because I want to get more into film.
Yeah.
And when those opportunities come up, like I kind of jump on them right away, and I put all my other writing aside. So it doesn't happen too often, especially now. Like I feel like nothing's happening in film.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when those opportunities pop up, I kind of just put everything aside and I work solely on that. So
nice.
But
I'm sorry, Sean. I had to ask Tim that question. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I thought that was a great question because it made me think about the role-playing game stuff too.
Yeah.
where, I do believe breaks are good, but I always feel guilty. And like, I think as someone who's gotten success much later in life, um, it feels like I've already wasted a lot of time. So now I have to hurry and catch up, and there's no time for breaks, and I have to work myself to death. And if I'm not writing, then clearly I've failed myself, et cetera, et cetera. So having to deal with a lot of that self doubt and self guilt is makes taking an actual break troublesome. Like I wanted to sleep in a little bit this morning, and at 7 o'clock I was wide awake, laying in bed, and just was like, that's not, so the mind turns on when it turns on. So I feel like if it's running, I need to be running.
Madeline says I need to take more breaks. She has a great question too, and I'm really curious about this, especially in David's case, because I know David has this running through his mind a lot. But because I know David, but do your characters actually give you space to stop, to take a break?
Not really. No, it's nice though, because if for example, for now, like I finished working on the last book in my series at the end of July, and I had a couple of little kind of ghostwriting projects to finish off, and I finished them just kind of by the first week of August, and I've just taken the rest of August off, basically, but even then, I started writing a new book this weekend, and in that time, I've still been kind of like thinking about it and like considering it, and just kind of coming up with kind of like situations and stuff like that, and kind of thinking about what this is going to be like and everything. And a lot of that is kind of just imagining the character in different sort of situations. And I've never really kind of talked to anyone about it, because this is the way I kind of do it. I kind of like think about the character in like just random situations, like going to buy some milk from a shop, even if they're from a second world fantasy book. They might just be in Athenry going to buy some milk or something. And I think about what would they do, and what would they say in this situation, and what would happen, and all that. And I just kind of do like little kind of things when I'm not writing like that, like mind exercises, I suppose. But it means that when I do come to sit down and write them, that I have like a real kind of I plot to an extent, but then I kind of like to see what things are going to happen as well. So I feel like if I get to know them in that way, then if something just comes up naturally in like some dialogue with something, or something comes up, I can react as them a lot better than I would have done if I was just, if I didn't do that process. So that's why the break can help, because it gives you a little bit of time to kind of weirdly to spend just with the character in your head, instead of thinking about, okay, here I am in the plot and here I am in the story, and how's this going to work next. It just gives that time to kind of breathe and to kind of get to know the nuances of the characters a little bit more.
And forgive me if I got this wrong, but I think the last time you and I had a conversation, it was about that some of the characters from your previous series, your now previous series, the series you just completed, have kind of spoken up and wanted their own space a little bit.
Yeah, they do, yeah, and because that's one of the things that you can kind of do when you get to know them so much. Like you kind of look at, plot is different to story, right? So you sometimes you have like the plot there, and then you'd be telling the story, and it's like, well, you know what, the plot doesn't really work for the story that you're trying to tell, and because I think story is more important than plot, but then also character is more important than both of them, I think. And sometimes, so when you get to know them so well, that you might be like, and this was what happened on the last book. I was kind of like doing something, and I had it plotted for a while, and I kind of knew it in my heart that the plot that I had was not right for what I was for the characters and for the story at that point. And then when I was kind of doing the thing with the characters, it was like, it became very, very clear that like I was trying to lead with the plot instead of other things. But that's because when you get to know the characters so well, it's a lot easier to kind of to realize that.
Yeah, Madeline says they never give you space.
That's all right. I like most of them. Yeah. It's the characters that I nice that I don't
like. That's unusual. I don't like most of my characters. How about for everybody else?
For me, I usually when I write whichever character is the loudest in my head, which is really just me finding the right plot device to move forward with the story. And some writers will call it writer's block, where you get to a point where you're just at an impasse in the story. What I tend to do there is I just go to the next loudest character. So I jump from story to story and just kind of mark my place in my head. And when I figure that out, I go back to it.
Nice.
I have characters, even books that I'm done with, that like my very first book, they still talk to me and like want me to go back and add stuff to that story and come out with like a special edition. So constantly, even characters that I haven't written yet that I have like plotted books talk to me. And so I have like a file that is scenes to be written, that where at night I think of something or they're talking to me and I'm writing it down in this book of what they want to happen to them. And so like I piece it all together when I start writing. And there's a lot of them, so it gets very noisy. They all try to talk at once.
Tim, Sean?
I'm a draft writer, so I tend to do a lot of drafts, and usually in the first draft, I kind of let the characters just act naturally, and I tend not to think about it too much and just let them kind of make their own choices. But like once that first draft is done, that's usually when they start like talking to me and telling me things they would have done or should have done, and I go back and correct it that way. But usually when I'm working on something else is like when the characters I've already written have started to get loud and like call me back to it. And that's why I like end up like hopping between projects so much, because I'm constantly always thinking about characters like I've already written about.
I tend to have like cups of coffee with characters, but mostly I visualize scenes in my head, and a lot of times the characters are not necessarily want to have a conversation as much as they're nudging me, like, please get us out of this scene. Please, just get us out of this scene. We've been stuck in this wagon for 2 years, Sean. Get us out of the scene. So that's how it manifests for me, is that breaking through whatever, I'll visualize the scene till a point where I can't anymore, and then breaking through that, and I get a lot of encouragement from the characters because they want to move on in the book.
How do your characters talk to you in the role-playing scenarios? Is it because you're not privy to the scenario or the plot right away? You're developing your character first to get into, and then the DM usually is the person that pushes you to wherever you're going to go, right? So how do they talk differently to you?
Yeah, I mean, so I do GMing a lot and that sort of thing. But when I do get the chance to play, mostly the character is, when it first start off for me, they're saying, okay, what exactly is this world we're in? Where are the moral and ethical boundaries that I can bounce off of? Am I a good person? Am I an anti-hero? Spoilers, most of my characters are anti-heroes. What exactly is, I guess, that cliche? What's my motivation?
Yeah.
Once I can, and sometimes it takes a couple sessions to really find a character's voice and their place, and sometimes it just immediately pops. It's just mostly like I role play for a lot of reasons, but one of those is to kind of help I'm not great at social interaction per se, so role playing actually helps me get better at that through playing pretend, as it were.
I've been with you socially. I would not characterize you as awkwardly social.
It's taken a lot of practice to get where I'm at.
All right. Well, we're very, very fortunate to have C.L. Cannon join us again for another season of the Indie Connection. As she does each and every week, she brings us books that, if you like a specific genre, book, or theme, she will bring you some indie books that you might enjoy if you enjoy that. So here is the first Indie Connection of the fall season, and then we'll be back to talk a little bit more. Video, everybody. Look, first show back. Load.
Hey guys, C.L. Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of My Oxford Year by Julia Wyland. The first book I have for you is called Planes, Trains, and All the Feels by Livy Hart. As the black sheep of the family, choreographer Cassidy Bliss vowed she'd do anything to get home in time to help with her sister's wedding and avoid family disappointment. Again. She just never expected anything would involve sharing the last rental car with the jerk who cut her off in line at the airport this morning. But horrible times apparently call for here-goes-nothing measures. Driving across the country with Luke, luck can be solved with a spreadsheet Carlisle, must be a penance for some crime she committed. Because the second he opens his mouth, it's all she can do to not maim him with her carry-on. But somewhere between his surprisingly thoughtful snack sharing and his uncanny ability to see straight to the core of her feelings go unchecked. Suddenly, their crackling chemistry is just one more thing they have to navigate, and it couldn't come at a worse time. But after a lifetime of letting the expectations and needs of others drive her life, Cassidy must decide if she's ready to take the wheel once and for all. The second book I have for you is called Look Again by Becca Wilhite. Spare me the drama. Photography is my thing. When Dexter Kaplan walks into my life with his swagger and his stupidly perfect hair, I'm determined not to fall for his act. I took this job at Chamberlain Academy for 2 reasons. 1, it's stable, and I could use a little stability right now. 2, I'm teaching art and photography, 2 things I love more than anything else. Not on my list of reasons? To talk to, flirt with, or even look at the arrogant former Broadway star theater teacher who acts like he owns all of campus. The Shakespeare line about the world being your stage? Yeah, he takes that one to heart. When Chamberlain announces they're finally putting an arts teacher on the facility council, it's only me and Dexter vying for the position. And let's face it, Dexter is beyond charming. But I need that council position for reasons Dexter won't ever understand. I'm determined to beat him. But then we're put in the impossible position of earning the council seat by collaboration. That's code for teacher torture. Once we begrudgingly start working together, I begin to wonder if I haven't been fair to the mysterious Dexter Kaplan. Is all this collaborating going to make me see him in a new way? Maybe Dex isn't what I thought. Maybe we both need to refocus. Maybe we both need to look again. The third book I have for you is called Ciao for Now by Kate Bromley. With her 30s rapidly approaching and a mountain of student debt looming over her, Violet Luciano's dream of finishing design school and working in fashion has cost her everything. So when she lands an internship at an up-and-coming fashion brand in Rome, she brings her A-game to Italy. With nothing left to lose, Violet plans to win the competition among the interns for the ultimate prize, a job at a New York label. But when a coffee run goes wrong and Violet accidentally destroys a stranger's laptop, all the apology Americanos in the world won't help her. Because it turns out the man from the cafe is Matteo, her professor's eternally grumpy son who thinks she's a clumsy American and maybe a stalker. Their animosity and undeniable chemistry grows as together they're forced to face a summer of chic parties, adventures through Rome, and sharing a home with a person they can't stand the most. The more time she spends with him, the more distracted she finds herself. With her chance to win the competition slipping out of her grasp, Violet has to decide whether to say ciao to Matteo or ciao to her dreams. And the last book I have for you is called Reroute by M.J. Paget. I may be the biggest klutz I know, but hiding in a dryer with my grumpy neighbor Edwin's unmentionables is a new low, even for me. Despite my successful career, I just can't seem to channel that same kind of luck into my love life. When I unexpectedly find myself with said neighbor on a work trip, things go from bad to worse, until I begin to see a different side to Edwin. He's unbelievably caring and unfailingly kind underneath that persnickety exterior. And when things begin to heat up between the two of us, I realize that maybe our differences are what make us work. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye.
Thanks as always to CL Cannon for that wonderful Indie Connection. Some great books out there. Hopefully you check them out. The links will be in the description after the show, so come back and check that out, and we'll have all those for you so you can check out those books. All right, everybody. So I wanted to kind of round out the discussion and talk a little bit about things that, for those of us out there who aren't as adept to routine, or for somebody who might be looking to start a routine, what do you feel like is the best advice you could give somebody about, becoming a routinist, doing a routine?
I would say that if you're going to have a routine, you got to have structure to it. And, like I use a lot of tools. I use a lot of spreadsheets because I have a lot of projects going. So I'll be editing an anthology. And so I'm keeping track of submissions on that. And I have dedicated time I set aside in my calendar to read those submissions and to judge them. And then I have, freelance editing work. So I have that in my calendar, and I have other spreadsheets that I use for that. I mean, that's what I do. It's a lot of work, but it keeps me organized, and I'm able to get it all done in a timely fashion that way.
I think the key is always success. Pick something you can do regularly for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and succeed at it. And the more that you succeed at the routine that you've installed, the more, at least I hope so, it works for me. I think it's a good benefit when you see yourself succeeding. So, and then slowly over time you add that to routine, and you add to that success. So I think that's an important step.
For me, I would just say, just start. You have to start. Give yourself some grace, and just remember that it takes 28 days to start a habit. So you're not going to see that habit right away, but you can't start a routine unless you actually start.
28 days. That's a lifetime for most people here. That's the way our society is right now, right? Give it to me now.
Yeah, people want to see that instant gratification, and nothing happens overnight. So you just got to be mindful that it's not going to be, I'm going to do it one day and it's all going to be all right. It takes time to form habits.
Tim, David, you guys want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm probably the worst person to give advice about routines, but because a lot of mine are forced on me. But I would say definitely try and get organized, like what Kenneth was saying about keeping a schedule, and just have everything mapped out, because I think that'll set you up for success. And then just commit to it. Just do your best to commit to those goals that you set.
I think it's important as well not to kind of put yourself under too much pressure, because routines aren't for everyone either. I mean, that's the thing as well. And what works for one person might not and probably won't work for someone else. So, find something that works for you, and don't kind of look at other writers or other creatives and say, well, they're in a routine and it works really, really well. Their life and the way they work might be completely different, and it's just all about finding that thing that's going to work best for you, and not to kind of get yourself too meshed into like, I have to find this routine, otherwise I'm never going to get anything done. Like, I know people that write very, very sporadically, or write in ways that I can see no routine or structure, but it works for them, and they're able to like pump out like 3 books a year, and it's like this is like magic. I don't know how they do it, but it works for them, and I think it's especially if you're a new writer or you're someone who kind of wants to get a routine, just don't think it's going to happen straight away, and don't think that, like, you read like someone's book on writing and it's like, okay, this is exactly what I need to do, because even Stephen King's on writing, when you read one of his books, it's very, very different to the advice that he's given. So just relax and chill out. It's all good.
Wait, you mean that's not the gospel? Uh-huh.
It makes me laugh because, if you like, I like Stephen King, but if you read his book and it's like adverbs are really bad and was is really bad. And you read one of his books, it's like, well, he clearly didn't listen to himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're talking to somebody who's I always say my projects are like the Olympics. It takes 4 years to develop them and put them out. So I'm like Metallica, put out something every 5 years or something like that, But
no, I agree with what David said, and what I typically tell my writers when I'm giving advice on routines is I tell them to set small goals. Like when I started, like everybody was like, "You got to write 2,000 words a day." So I was like, "Oh, I got to get 2,000 words a day," and I couldn't do it. So I started setting these really small goals, and when I hit those, then I would just be like, "Oh, I'm going to write another 5. My goal is going to be 500 words. Then I'll hit another 500 words." And before I knew it, I was doing the 2,000 words without even trying. So, and it's different for everyone. Like David said, I mean, everybody's got different capabilities and strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, and along with what David said too, I think forgiveness is a really powerful tool for somebody starting out, because look, if you say I'm going to set a goal for 2,000 words and then you write 10 words, celebrate that you wrote 10 words. You wrote 10 words. Maybe tomorrow you'll write 25. Maybe you won't write any. Maybe you'll write 50 in 2 days. But don't be like, if it's 2,000 words, like, I mean, it's the one thing I have like kind of an issue with NaNoWriMo. It's like everybody's like so obsessed with getting the 50,000 words. That's not the purpose of NaNoWriMo. NaNoWriMo is just to get you into some kind of routine or get you started into something that you're doing, right? It's to let you know that you can do it, and you should be. And Nano does this, but people don't acknowledge it because it's all about the badges and all that. But Nano does celebrate you when you do anything. And so, I think that's important, is to kind of acknowledge that you did something. And that in itself will probably get you, as you said, Kenneth, you develop it. You just, all of a sudden you're writing 2,000 words and you don't even realize it because you've developed a sort of routine, right? So without even thinking about it.
With Nano, I mean, anybody could put 50,000 words on a page. If it makes sense, that's one other thing. If it's good, that's a whole different thing. Yeah. So, I mean, I could be like, it was the biggest day ever, and just, and it doesn't even have to make sense. And I made my 50,000 words, but, and that's why I don't do word counts for myself as far as a routine goes, because I want the best words I can put out there. So if I'm writing 10 words, but it propelled my story forward, then I feel like I did a good job, instead of writing 20,000 words that I'm going to go back and change in editing because they weren't the best that I could do.
You're going to all get an insight into my brain. As soon as Tiffany said that, a scene from a movie popped up. There's a movie called Summer School, and these two guys are writing, they present their they're two guys that, not capable of writing 3,000 words, but they do, they present and they go, it was ever 2,000 words, count them. And they walk away. It's pretty funny, but yeah, that's what popped into my head when you said that. A.L. Mengel is here. Thank you for joining us, Andy. It's nice to see you. And yeah, so Andy has this really great system. It's called WriteStorm. It's a book that he put out about, Andy, it's probably 8 years old now, 7 years old. We've known each other a long time, brother. WriteStorm has helped me tremendously with a creative routine. It helps some projects related focus in the middle of a busy day. It gives me accountability and encouragement. And he says, I found that every day cannot be a banner writing day. We need days to creative refuel. We don't want to burn ourselves out. Yep. You missed that a little bit earlier, Andy. We were talking about that, and Sean piped in with 28 days. You can have a whole zombie apocalypse in 28 days. Yeah. I mean, by definition, half of us would be dead in those 28 days anyway. But
I would like to think that I would, live.
We all like to think we would survive.
Yeah. I read enough zombie books that I know how to live.
Yeah, right. And I missed this earlier, but A.F. Stewart said my characters never shut up. So, yeah, it's interesting, right? I think we put so much, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic, 2015. So yeah, 8 years ago. And that's what he says. His book was released in 2015. I wanted to talk about this topic and start our conversations this season with this because I feel like ultimately it's like anything else, right? We talk about oftentimes plotting versus pantsing, what's right, what's wrong, how to do things, and how to, there's all kinds of conversations online about, and there's all kinds of threads about if you do this or do that. And as Sean pointed out, and David pointed out, and even Tiffany pointed out earlier about, following a certain writer doesn't, even if you did their routine, doesn't secure you success, right? You have to find the success your own way, and finding your own way is what being indie is all about. It's one of the cool things about being indie is you can find your own way and do that, and however it works for you is however it works. But what you end up doing is you kind of get somewhere in between, right? Without even thinking about it, it becomes subconscious. Like if you're doing something, if you write a book and you commit to writing a book, or if you're making a movie or you're doing something creative and you see it to the end, you have done a routine, whether you believe it or not. Whether it took you 5 years to do that routine, whether it took you a year to do it, whether it took you 1 month to do it, you've been doing it. And that in itself is the thing I think fails a lot of people, because there's a lot of people who have started projects and never finished them, right? And so, I think what needs to be talked about in this context is that you should celebrate no matter what you think about routine. Even if you're anti-routine, no, I never do a routine. You've done it, because if you're an artist that's put something out there, you've completed something, and that's routine. That's a routine. And on top of that, you've made people see it. So that's a routine on another routine, because you have to promote it and you have to do these things to get it out there, because, it's a small fish amongst, a million other fish out there in the sea. So if you don't show it, if you just keep it to yourself, then you just did it for yourself, which is fine too. There's people who do that. But if you want it to get out there and you want other people to see it, you have to tell other people about it, and that becomes a routine as well, right? So I think I just think that it's kind of this thing where it becomes you're kind of in the middle, right? Sometimes you have a routine, sometimes you're very rigid about your routine, sometimes that you have to switch up your routine. All those things come true for everybody, I think, at some point. Am I wrong in that? Does everybody kind of agree with that?
No, I agree.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, great. All right. That being said, all right. The last question I want to ask everybody about and talk about is when you are completed with the routine that you've just completed, like you've just put something out there, and yes, it never ends because you have to promote it and then you move on to the next thing. But are you taking a moment after you've completed something to look at the routine that you've had and kind of either adapt it to the next thing? Do you find that you find something interesting that you did during this time period that you've created something that you want to adapt into the next thing? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense to everybody? Kind of your routine, you kind of change and evolve your routine. Is that something that happens for you?
I think so. I mean, your work is constantly changing, right? And your
Right.
attitude changes from day to day. Some days you feel like you can write very well, and some days it's a struggle just to get words on the page. So you have to constantly evolve it, and you have like you were saying earlier, like sometimes it's just a celebration to get 5 words or 10 words that mean something. So yeah, it's constantly evolving. It's just having some sort of structure to keep you writing. That's important for people like me, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
So for the project,
No,
I'm always turning you off. I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead. It's fine.
For this project that I'm releasing in October, I started the routine of before I go to bed, I write down any ideals that I had throughout the day so I don't forget them like the next day. And that is something that I would like to keep forward on all my projects. And it's something that I hadn't done prior to this one. So I want to add that into my routine for future projects, just so it, we always come up like, during the day, oh, I thought of this. And the next day it was so good, so unique that we just forget it ourselves. And I've done that a billion times. So that's something I'm going to keep in. Also, I've gave myself a lot of leeway with this one. And it's been a lot less stress. And that's something I want to just keep going with myself, because I put so much pressure on my first 3 books that I don't think that I put out the best thing I could possibly because of the stress. And so that's another routine I'm going to keep going forward.
Nice.
I was just going to say, you hopefully, when you're going through the routines for a particular project, you find the potholes for yourself along the way. And if nothing else, you recognize some of the bad habits you have, and you're able to navigate them better next time. So obviously, I think most routines do evolve as we get older, as we learn more. But finding the things that trip us up is probably the most valuable experience, I think, in that regard. And that lets you just be, that hopefully lowers your stress for the next project.
Hopefully.
Or it lets new stress. It opens space for new stress.
Or adds more stress, right? Tim, David?
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the process, like the writing process, and finding the routine that works for you is taking what you've done and seeing what works and what doesn't work and implementing that as you go. I mean, for me personally, I used to care a lot about word counts and like what the word count I was hitting per each week. I would set a goal for like 10,000 words and wouldn't always make it. So then like I just kind of like adjusted it to a goal that would work better with whatever was going on in my life at the time. And, and I'm constantly adjusting that and reevaluating that goal, because I know when I don't hit that goal is when like the guilt and like all those, damaging self-doubt types of ideas kind of creep into your mind. So I'm constantly reevaluating my word count goals and making it easy so I can hit it, so I can gain confidence and keep the ball rolling with my project.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of just roll with it sometimes, like things do change, and as resistant to change as some of us might well be, things do change, and you kind of have to kind of like develop with that. But as Tiffany was saying, like if you do kind of tweak it a little bit and you find like a certain project more enjoyable for whatever that reason is, then you're going to take that on and do it again, because you want it to be enjoyable. Like I've worked to very, very strict deadlines, because like I do ghostwriting as well. So like I have sometimes where it's like, very, very strict ones, because it's, contract work basically. And I've worked with like publishers for my own stuff, which have had deadlines. And sometimes I like that, I like that kind of thing where it's like, this is the deal and you've got to keep going, but then it's also nice where you kind of work into your own deadlines and maybe you have no deadline and it can just be more of a we'll see how it goes. But like, yeah, I think we all want to kind of like make the thing work well for us. And in that way, working well isn't always just producing a certain amount of words every single day by this. It's making it work well for us so that we're actually happy with what we're making, and we're happy while we're making it. So it's like, if you do stumble upon something, or you do able to tweak something, or if that change is forced upon you and it ends up being like a good change, it's something to embrace. But then again, as well, on the other side of that is, if there is a change that happens and it doesn't work for you, then at least then well, I'm not going to try this again. I'm going to try not to be in this situation again, or you can kind of look to ways to mitigate that kind of thing if it does kind of pop up. Because that's a great thing about creativity. It's always a learning process, and it's always trying to get the best out of yourself. You have to keep evolving.
I'm so glad you brought up change, David, because this season and This Week in Indies, we have changed something as well. The last 5 minutes of our show, and everybody, you'll get to have everybody tell them where you can find them after in a minute. But I think it's time to have a little fun with my panel. So a long time ago, in a land far, far away, and a distant memory, we did this game show called the 10-Minute Drill, where we had some teams compete, and basically it was 10 minutes on the clock, or 15 questions to get through, and whatever you did first, whoever did it the fastest and did it the most ended up winning. And so we're adapting that a little bit here to our show, and we're going to be doing the 5-minute drill, everybody. So I have 10 questions for this lovely group of people. And as you can see, the clock is there, and it is honestly going to be right over your heads the entire time. And how this is going to work is I'm just going to go down the line. So right now I see Tiffany as my first person, and then Tim, and then Sean, and then David, and then Kenneth. And then the second question I ask, we'll do like a snake round. So Kenneth, you'll answer twice in a row. So basically, you'll answer the second question first, and then David, then Sean, then Tim, and then Tiffany. We go back and forth until you either get through 10 questions or the clock runs out on you. We're keeping track of how everybody's doing this season. So if you are a part of This Week in Indies, if you appear on our show as a panelist, you'll get to play every single time, and every single time will count for you. So if you're here multiple times, every game will be different for you, but you'll get to be a part of that. And the winner there will be a winner, and the panel that does the best, I am giving everybody a gift card from Amazon for the winner. And I'm also going to contribute to a charity of your choice. So each of you will give me a charity or a Kickstarter or something that you want, us to help out with. If there's a Kickstarter out there for a friend you really want us to contribute to, we'll do that as well. I don't want to call that charity, but we do want to support other indies and things like that. So the winner will get those rewards, and I've got some more things planned. So it's not just those, but and I'm not going to reveal those right now because I just want you all to be excited. You ready to play? I would unmute yourselves because it's going to go fast and furious. And I promise you, some of these are painful, some of them are not. All right. The first one's going to be really simple. It's going to get you going, and then we'll move forward. All right, Tiffany, you ready to get it going?
I hope.
All right. The first question for everybody is DC or Marvel?
Oh, Marvel.
Tim?
Marvel.
Sean?
DC.
David?
Marvel movies, DC Comics.
Kenneth?
Marvel.
All right, Kenneth, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Sitting in this office, still working every day.
Nice. David?
45.
Sean?
Hopefully with some art decorating the wall behind me.
Nice. Tim?
Hopefully alive, but still writing and writing more screenplays.
Nice. Tiffany?
Sitting on a beach somewhere, drinking and writing.
Nice. All right, Tiffany. What is your favorite descriptive word to use in a fight scene?
Descriptive. Bloody.
Tim?
Gory? I don't
Nice.
know.
Sean?
Visceral.
All right. David?
Blistered.
Nice. Kenneth?
I don't know. I'm going to say moist.
Oh, I hate it.
Everybody cringed at that one. All right. All right, Kenneth. Which device do you think is the hardest to type on? Your phone, a typewriter, a laptop, or a desktop?
Definitely my phone. I got big sausage fingers.
Me too. David?
Yeah, phone.
Sean?
Phone. Same reason as Kenneth. Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's a phone.
Tiffany?
Phone.
All right. Tiffany, Discord, friend or foe?
Oh, friend.
All right. Tim?
Not too familiar with it, but sounds friendly.
All right. Sean?
It is a friend communication, but a foe to getting things done.
David?
Foe. Just too much information.
Kenneth?
Friend.
All right. Kenneth, if you could change your name to any symbol, what would it be?
Infinity.
Nice. David?
A terabang.
Nice. Sean?
The symbol for chaos that Moorcock came up with and that Warhammer took and used and everybody uses now. But yeah.
Nice. Tim?
The Triforce symbol from Zelda.
Nice. Tiffany?
The peace sign.
That's weird.
It's very weird. All right, Tiffany, the last book you really absorbed.
Oh, shoot. Oh my gosh. Probably it's called Bloodless Ties. It's indie author.
Nice. Tim?
Last Days by Adam Neville.
Nice. Sean?
That is a tough question. I got to go quick now. Chenga's Safari by Milton Davis.
All right. David?
An Easy Guide to Escape Hell by Eliza Menz, who is also an indie author. It's really good.
Kenneth?
I edit, so I have to absorb them all. So.
What's the last one you edited then? Can you tell us?
I have like 10 I'm editing right now, so I can't.
All right.
I can't.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Never
All right,
wait.
Kenneth.
Never wait. There you go.
All right. Music when writing? Yes, no, sometimes, depends.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Okay. David?
Yes. Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Tim?
Almost always.
Tiffany?
It depends.
All right, Tiffany. Longest consecutive or continuous writing session you've had in 2023?
I did a 24-hour write-a-thon not that long ago.
Nice. Tim?
Recently, probably about like 3 hours straight.
Okay. Sean?
6 hours straight earlier this year.
All right. David?
14 hours, and I'm still recovering.
All right. Kenneth?
10 hours at the beginning of the year.
All right. All right. I'm gonna stop the clock here for just a second. The last one is really going to throw you all for a loop. But even when it hits 0, I want you all to answer the question for me. But it's going to hit 0 before any of you probably. Well, I don't know. Maybe one or two of you will answer the question. But Kenneth, if you could describe your writing philosophy in one phrase, what would it be?
Just enjoy doing what you love.
All right. David?
Write good characters.
All right. Sean?
Be intense and interesting.
Tim?
Just get the words on the page and you can always fix them later.
Nice. Tiffany?
I just need one word: chaos.
All right. And there you go, guys. You've completed the 5-minute drill. Congratulations for all of you. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope I didn't cause you too much stress. I have noted what you've done, and or I will note what you have done, and we'll see how it holds up. We've got some real competitive people who played this game who are going to be on this show, just to let you know, and they're crazy with it. But I just really hope everybody has fun with it. But ultimately, I really appreciate you all doing that and being a part of that. So, as your reward for completing the 5-minute drill, even though I would have done it anyway, tell everybody where they can find you. Tim, start us off.
You can find me on pretty much every social media platform. My website's timmeyerwrites.com. All my stuff is available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, wherever books are sold. And the newest one is Never Wake, the anthology of Dream Horror that I co-edited with Kenneth.
Nice. Tiffany?
You can find me on all social medias, Books by Tiffany Vega, and you can actually pre-order my upcoming novel on Amazon for the ebook, and it's coming out October 19th. And you can find all the information on my website.
Nice. Kenneth?
You can find out about me on kennethwkane.com. It has all my social media links. This month I have Never Wake coming out that I edited with Tim, and then I have October Screams coming out on the 19th. Never Wake's on the 8th. Sorry.
Nice.
And October Screams on the 19th.
Awesome. David?
You can find me at my website, which is davidgreenwriter.com. I have the last book in my series out on the 18th of September, which is called At Eternity's Gates. And then, I'm just working on some things in the background for next year.
I have a feeling that one's going to throw me for a loop. I'm excited about it. Sean?
You can find most of my social media links at wickedvoice.com, although I just got on Blue Sky as well. Later this year in October, if you're in Atlanta, you can come to Multiverse. I'll be the play track director for Multiverse. You can find me there. And on Facebook, we have the Writing Tribe, which will soon be the Writing Troop. And if you're interested, it's a great community of writers. I highly recommend.
I'll put the link to the Writing Troop on the description for everybody. It's a really great group to join, as well as joining our group at the Think Tank. This is where you get to be on our shows. So I'll put the link to that as well. I should be doing that anyway, but I haven't been in the past. Hey, look, you're at GoIndieNow. If this is your first time here, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Subscribe, hit the smash button, do all those wonderful, smash the like button, I should say. If there is a smash button, that would be awesome. But smash the like button and enjoy everything that we're doing here. We've got content going all throughout the week, the month, the year. We are now full scale fall season. We've got new shows coming out. We've got old favorites coming out, and all in between, live and pre-recorded. And we have the character driven season 3 Madeline Dale show on Tuesday, or is it Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it's Wednesday. Wednesday debuting season 3, and that'll run throughout every week on Wednesday. And then I just completed a film festival run where I was at CineQuest, and so I have a bunch of interviews that I'll be putting out throughout the next couple weeks on that. We also have the Green Room. We have a brand new show, and that Sean's producing. Sorry, Sean, the name is escaping me right now.
Zero means you're dead.
I'm sorry?
Zero means you're dead.
Zero means you're dead. Thank you. Yes. And it's about RPG and role-playing games and all that wonderful stuff. And it's going to be an awesome show, and we're real excited about it. We also have Working the Indies with myself and Brian Tam, where we talk about indie wrestling. Yes, we talk about everything indie here. So everybody get ready for all of that and more. And, of course, this show will be back next week, next Sunday at noon Eastern. So enjoy that, and remember that it's always time to go indie now. We'll see you next week.